Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Articulated Review. On this episode, we're going to be reviewing the Hot Toys MMS183 Dark Knight Rises Bane figure. This is a little bit different than the other movie masterpiece series figures from Hot Toys in that it's more basic in terms of doesn't have the parallel eye rolling system like some of the other figures do. I think they also didn't do that with Catwoman and Two-Face, Harvey Dent Two-Face as well. But anyway, just a little bit of background on the Bane figure, or the Bane character itself. He was created by, if I remember correctly, Graham Nolan and Chuck Dixon. His first appearance was in The Vengeance of Bane #1, or Batman, The Vengeance of Bane #1, and came out in 1993. He'll probably be most noted as far as his comic book origins for being in the Nightfall series, which is where he actually broke Batman's back, a scene they actually portrayed in this movie. And while Batman was out of commission, it allowed Azrael to take over the mantle of being the Batman and kind of dole out justice his way. Anyway, it's a great storyline. It's one of the best superhero storylines that's not a graphic novel. So I recommend, if you haven't read it, you can actually pick it up now. I think it's in 4-volume books. Cost you about $100 to get all 4 books, but it's definitely a very good read. It's well worth the money just to have in your collection. Bane doesn't have much of an origin story. They kind of gave him one in The Dark Knight Rises, where he was in the same prison as Ra's al Ghul and Ra's al Ghul's daughter, and he saved her, and then she convinced her father to free him and have him join the League of, they called it the League of Shadows in the movie, but in most of the comic books and in the animated series, it was the League of Assassins, and he actually was connected to the League of Assassins and Ra's al Ghul in the animated series back in the 90s. In the movie, he actually turned out to be too extreme even for Ra's al Ghul, and so they booted him out of the League of Shadows, and now he kind of runs his own terrorist organization. Of course, in the movie, he was portrayed by Tom Hardy, who did an excellent job playing him. Although the movie's not one of the better movies, well, it's definitely the weakest movie of the trilogy, I guess is what I was trying to say. He actually did an excellent job. I think, you know, not on the same level as Heath Ledger's Joker, but definitely a very, very good performance as a villain. Bane actually appeared once before in movies in 1997's unfortunate Bat Nipple Nightmare, Batman and Robin. Bane made an appearance as a kind of just a goon henchman who's controlled, kind of almost like brought back to life by the venom that's used to power him, like what he has in the comic books. They didn't use the venom as a subject in The Dark Knight Rises for Bane, although he does wear the mask. They allude to that that's what keeps him, it helps him to stay alive after something horrible is done to him. But also it does seem to give him superhuman strength, because there's a couple of scenes where he does things that you're probably superhuman. He punches through a solid cement pillar, doesn't break his hand. I don't know what Batman's cowl's made out of, but he punches that, shatters that. I don't know, the cowl, the mask, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, don't know much else about him. The origin story they told in the movie is really the only origin story I know of. I don't think he was ever really given one in the comic books. Only known alias for him is the name Dorrance. Don't know if that's a first or a last name. Oh, he does pop up here and there again in several other villain groups. Suicide Squad, he actually does make a brief appearance in here and there. But that's really it. So with that being said, let's get into the figure. Okay, so let's tear into this bad boy. Well, first, typical stuff on the box. Rough on this side, smooth on this side, some textural differences and contrast. Kind of standard for Hot Toys. Do things a little different. So, you know, open it up. Of course, we got a nice little flap cover here. Let the games begin. I can't do a good Bane voice. I sound halfway between Bane and halfway between that and Don Pardo from Saturday Night Live. Bill Murray! All right, so here he is. Anybody who knows, can tell by looking that I've had this open before. I have had him displayed before, but I've had him away in storage, and I wanted to get him out and do a review on him because I think it's a really cool figure. And even though it wasn't the best of the trilogy of the movies, he was a really good villain. I did like him. They kind of made him this kind of, you know, terrorist character. So with him himself, you don't really get a whole lot of accessories. Of course, you get this nice little broken Batman mask, which is, you know, the piece of the mask he held up after he beat up Batman and broke his back, which was the reference in the movie to the Nightfall comic books, which I thought was really cool. But another indication that possibly this gives him super strength or something, because I don't know what the Batman mask is made out of, what kind of composite material. I thought it was something that was maybe bulletproof, but he was able to punch it so hard he was able to break the mask. So maybe there's something to that mask he wears that doesn't just keep him alive. Like they said in the movie, it also gives him super strength. You get a couple of different hands. He doesn't have any weapons or anything to hold, because in the movie he never actually carried any weapons around. But the level of detail on the hands, obviously, you know, it's Hot Toys, so, you know, it's going to be quality. There's actual, you know, color variations and the flesh tone, and there's actual veins in the hands, and, you know, the wrinkling around the fingers and the knuckles, and you can see the knuckle bones protruding, and detailing of the fingernails. So just very, very detailed. And he's got two open hands like this. You can see the fingers splayed out. And of course, it's again, just the level of detail is amazing. It's Hot Toys, so, you know, what do you expect? He comes with two of these hands, which are both the same. I actually have the opposite hand on the right hand that matches this one. And I've tried many times to try to get him in his iconic pose where he's holding his straps, you know, where he has that pose where he's walking around kind of all, I don't know, kind of arrogant, where he's holding those straps on his chest. I can't, even without the shirt, without the sweater on, I can't get him to do it. And I'll go ahead and address that. The reason why he's wearing the sweater is because I don't like the body. The body sculpt is amazing. I mean, it looks like his body in the movie, right down to the scarring and the scar that goes down the back on the spine that you only really see in that one shot, which they never explain why he had that. I just don't like that it's a jointed body. Now, there is a Fison body, I can't remember if it's like body M234, M34, that is identical to this body, except that it's just missing the scarring. And a lot of people who like to pose him without his shirt on, they've gone with replacing this body with that one. And if you're very careful, you can remove his clothing and move it over to the new body, but you have to be very, very, very careful. And they do actually, there's a couple of companies out there that make some aftermarket clothing for him. I don't know that you can get this vest and this belt, but you can get the pants, and maybe it is the vest and the pants. Maybe it's just I don't know. And it doesn't look exactly as identical to this, which this is much more movie accurate in regards to how this piece is set up. Now, I've had a couple of issues with him where you can tell there that the strap has come unglued. That's very easily fixed with just a little super glue. So there's some touch-up work I need to do on him. He's been moved around several times, so once you get these figures set up, you don't want to jostle them around too much or be taking them in and out of packaging. But unfortunately, I've had to do that with him, so just some little touch-up work that I need to do. That's not indicative of if you were to buy one new in the box, that's how it's going to show up. That's just something that happened because of me. He also comes with a second arm gauntlet. I think this one is to use with, I don't remember him having these on both hands, just on the one hand. So he's got this one that has the actual thumb hole like this, which I remember him having. I don't remember him having a second one on the other hand, but I'd have to go back and look at again and watch the movie and see, or look at production stills. I've never used that one. And then the only other really accessories that he comes with, besides all of that, is he comes with his base stand, which, you know, looks like the kind of metal grating in the sewers that he was standing on whenever he squared off for the first time with Batman. I promise I'll get this off here at some point eventually. There we go. And he comes with his coat, which I actually have him posed with the shirt, the sweater, and the coat on both. just because I liked that look. So that's just a personal preference thing. But that's really literally it. This and the little crotch grabber stand supporting. And that's all he comes with. I mean, the coat's amazing. It's highly detailed, looks just like the coat he wore in the movie. And the stand's pretty cool. You know, and has the nice little label right there that has his name on it in case you, for some reason, don't know who he is. We'll get the figure back over here and take a little bit closer look at some of the other details on him. You know, very nicely detailed face. Like I said, he doesn't have the actual posable eyes, the parallel eye rolling system that Hot Toys came up with, like the Batman and the Joker figure do in this series. But some of these minor characters like Batman, Selena Kyle, Catwoman, Harvey Dent, Two-Face, they didn't come with that either. But yeah, I mean, just the zippers, all the little straps, everything on his pants, you know, just very, very highly detailed. And I want to say that these pants are actually removable. I think if you take the boots off, down here there's actual zipper that unzips to actually either loosen these out, or they actually are able, you can actually get them where you can take them off. And you can see here on the actual vest here that it unbuttons right here, and then you can unbutton that and get this off of him. It's not easy. I did it to put the sweater on him, and now that I've got the sweater on him and I've got this back on, I'm never going to take it off again. I'll never do the Fison body customization to him, just because I will never try to take this vest thing off again, because, you know, I've already done some damage to it by doing that, as careful as I was. So anyhow, not much else. I mean, you know, just the level of detail on the mask is very cool. The one thing was I kept having to go back and look was on the figure, this mask looks very, very dark blue. I don't remember it being that blue, but they went with the real dark blue color on it, and I don't remember in the movie it being that dark blue. It may just be the way the lighting was in the movie, it didn't come off that way. But if you look really close, you can see all these nice details like the veins in his scalp, and just the way they do the coloration on the skin. It's something really cool to watch, is to see the paint process of how they paint these realistic, you know, famous movie star as, you know, superheroes and supervillains in these movies that Hot Toys does these characters from, to see how they paint them. It's a really amazing process, the different layers, how they flick specks of blue and gray and red and yellow and orange even, and just build up layers to get this flesh tone to be perfect. It's really, really amazing. The boots themselves are just molded plastic. They're not little individual pieces or straps or made out of leather or anything like that. But still, I mean, just the level of detail is just amazing. And really, that's it. That's Bane. Okay guys, that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's a pretty awesome figure, as is most any of Hot Toys Movie Masterpiece series line. You do lose the parallel eye rolling system with this figure that you don't get with some of the others, but I don't think he really needs it. And like I said, the level of detail is just really super cool. So if you're a fan of the Dark Knight series of movies, or if you know you're just a Batman fan period, or if you just like collecting Hot Toy stuff, definitely recommend picking it up if you can find it for a good price. Like I said, there's a lot of custom aftermarket stuff, especially with Bison, that if you don't like posing him with the coat, you can do it without, so you don't get the actual jointed body look. But outside of that, cool figure. So until next time.
Bane, yes, that's my name. When you hear the name Bane, I guarantee the pain.